Welcome to the 48 Laws of Human Nature, Mastering the Art of Understanding People. In this audiobook, we'll explore 48 powerful laws that reveal the hidden patterns behind human behavior. These laws are divided into 8 pillars, from mastering yourself to understanding others, influencing with precision, building social power, staying resilient, leading with strategy, earning trust, and evolving into your best self. Each law is drawn from real-life stories, history, psychology, and personal experience, giving you tools you can apply the moment you hear them. Before we dive in, if you haven't already, please subscribe, like, and share your thoughts. Your feedback helps me make the next one even better. Now, let's begin with the dedication. To the seekers of truth, the observers of people, and the quiet minds who watch the world with curiosity and courage. May these laws guide your steps, sharpen your vision, and give you the power to understand what others cannot see. And with that dedication in mind, let's move into the preface. Human nature is the oldest force in the world. Older than language, older than culture, older even than history itself. It has shaped kingdoms and destroyed them. It has sparked revolutions, driven inventions, and whispered into the hearts of lovers and enemies alike. Yet, for all its power, most people barely understand it. They stumble through life thinking they are guided by logic, when in truth, they are often at the mercy of emotions, instincts, and hidden motives they can't even name. I have spent years watching people, not in laboratories, but in the real world. I have seen a corporate deal worth millions collapse because one man's ego was bruised in a meeting. I have seen lifelong friendships end over a single careless comment. I have seen a couple deeply in love destroy their bond, not because they didn't care, but because they didn't understand how to navigate each other's fears and insecurities. In politics, in business, in personal life, the patterns repeat. A leader loses control of his emotions during a crisis and makes a decision that costs him his career. A talented employee hides their ideas out of fear of criticism, while a less capable but more confident colleague takes the spotlight. A parent tries to protect their child from every failure, only to raise someone unprepared for the world's realities. We like to believe we are unique, but human nature is universal. The same drives, the same fears, the same hungers appear across every culture, every generation, every time in history. This book is not about telling you how people should behave. It is about showing you how they do behave and how you can master those truths instead of being mastered by them. These 48 laws are not moral commandments. They are observations distilled from centuries of human interaction, psychology, and lived experience. They are the unspoken rules that govern trust, influence, conflict, love, ambition, and survival. Some of these laws may challenge your beliefs. Some will be uncomfortable. But the deeper your understanding of them, the more you will see them everywhere, in the boardroom, in the marketplace, at the dinner table, and even in the quiet corners of your own mind. I did not write this book to be read once and set aside. I wrote it to be lived, tested, and returned to. Because when you truly understand human nature, you no longer just participate in the game, you begin to shape it. Now, let me explain to you the introduction, where we lay out the framework for this book. You'll discover the 8 powerful pillars that form the foundation of this book, and within each pillar, a set of specific laws, 48 in total, each one designed to help you understand people and yourself on a deeper level. Human beings are endlessly complex, yet our actions follow patterns as old as civilization itself. Whether we are seeking love, building a business, leading a team, or simply trying to survive in a chaotic world, we are all driven by the same inner forces: desire, fear, pride, ambition, and the need for connection. The problem is not that these forces exist. The problem is that most people have no idea how to understand or master them. This book is your guide to decoding human nature. It is built around 8 pillars, each representing a different dimension of life where mastery of yourself and others will give you an undeniable advantage. Every law you will read here is born from real-life observation, historical events, psychological research, and personal experience. Together, they form a toolkit for navigating relationships, influence, conflict, and personal growth with clarity and power. Pillar number 1, self-mastery. Before you can understand others, you must learn to master yourself. Self-control is not about suppressing feelings, but directing them. Your emotions can be your greatest allies or your most dangerous enemies. In this section, you will learn how to remain calm when others lose control, guard your mental and emotional energy, face the parts of yourself you've tried to hide, and transform your weaknesses into strengths. True power begins with inner stability. Without it, every victory is temporary. Pillar number 2, understanding others. People rarely say exactly what they mean. They communicate through subtle cues, tone of voice, pauses, silences, body language, and hidden agendas. Here, you will discover how to read the invisible scripts that drive people's behavior, see past the masks they wear, and identify their true motivations. This knowledge will allow you to navigate relationships with precision, avoiding unnecessary conflict, and building influence without force. Pillar number 3, influence and persuasion. Influence is not about shouting the loudest. It is about planting ideas so naturally that others believe they came up with them themselves. You will learn how to use mirroring to build instant rapport, awaken curiosity to draw people in, appeal to deep emotional needs, and frame conversations in ways that lead naturally to your desired outcomes. Mastering persuasion is about shaping environments, not forcing decisions. Pillar number 4, social power. Society is a web of perception. The way others see you determines how they treat you, and the way you manage that perception determines your influence. This section reveals how to command attention from the very first moment, use absence to increase your value, avoid petty conflicts that drain your reputation, and leverage group psychology to move crowds. You will also learn the importance of controlling your own story before others rewrite it for you. Pillar number 5, resilience and adaptability. Life will test you. People will betray you. Plans will collapse. The question is not if these things will happen, it is how you will respond when they do. This section will show you how to expect the unexpected without becoming cynical, adapt under pressure, turn discomfort into a teacher, and transform setbacks into strategic advantages. Resilience is not simply survival, it is the art of using challenges as stepping stones. Pillar number 6, leadership and strategy. Leadership is not given, it is earned through example and discipline. Whether you are leading a family, a business, or a movement, the principles of strategy remain the same. In this section, you will learn how to inspire loyalty by leading from the front. Use authority sparingly to keep it sharp. Break down complex problems to uncover their root causes, and anticipate the ripple effects of your actions. True leaders think beyond the next move. They think in decades. Pillar number 7, relationships and trust. Trust is slow to earn, but quick to lose. It is the foundation of influence, loyalty, and lasting relationships. You will learn how to build trust in small, consistent steps. Align your actions with your words, respect invisible boundaries, and know when to walk away for your own growth. This section also explores the dangers of self-centeredness and the transformative power of remembering people's names while letting go of petty grudges. Pillar number 8. Personal evolution, mastery of human nature, is not a one-time achievement. It is a lifelong process. This final section is about continual growth. Staying curious, reinventing yourself to avoid stagnation, pursuing depth over superficial achievements, and letting go of the past so you can move forward. You will also discover how to define success on your own terms and leave a legacy that influences others long after you are gone. The 48 laws in this book are not meant to be followed blindly. They are tools, some sharp, some subtle, to be used with wisdom and discernment. You may not need every law at every moment, but when life presents its tests, you will be ready. Once you begin to see these laws in action, In conversations, in negotiations, in moments of conflict or opportunity, you will never see the world the same way again. Before we dive into law number 1, if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe and like. Now, the law 1. Control your inner storm. A man who cannot master his own emotions will always be mastered by those who can. Power is first won and most easily lost in the realm unseen, within the boundaries of your own mind. Armies may win battles, alliances may secure peace, and wealth may sway the masses, but none of it will save a man who is a prisoner to his own impulses. The greatest conquests in history began not with a charge of cavalry or the signing of a treaty, but with a silent internal decision. I will not be moved by this storm. It is here, in the silent crucible of restraint, that the first and most vital law of human nature emerges. Emotional mastery is the foundation upon which all other forms of power are built. Without it, the mind becomes a house without walls, open to any who wish to intrude. With it, the mind becomes a fortress, not impenetrable, but carefully defended, with gates that open only by choice. The price of losing the inner battle. History offers endless cautionary tales of leaders undone by their own tempers. Alexander the Great, a man who carved an empire stretching from Greece to India, could bend entire nations to his will, but could not bend his own rage. At a banquet, inflamed by wine and pride, he killed Cletus, the general who had once saved his life. It was a single moment, over in seconds, but it sent ripples of doubt through his army. Here was the most powerful man alive, and yet he could not master himself. That fracture in his reputation never fully healed, for his men now knew there was one battlefield he could not dominate. Centuries later, the Roman Republic would see similar tragedies. The brilliant general Gaius Marius, celebrated for his military reforms and victories, destroyed his political career not on the field but in the Senate, where he allowed his anger at rivals to boil into public insults and threats. His enemies, recognizing his inability to control his temper, provoked him deliberately, leading him into actions that eroded his alliances. Power bled away, not from defeat in battle, but from defeat in conversation. And in more recent times, corporate history is littered with executives who, in moments of panic or fury, made public statements or hasty decisions that destroyed decades of brand building. The CEO who lashes out at a journalist, the politician who snaps at a heckler, the investor who sells everything in a single bad week, all lose far more than they gain. They imagine they are taking decisive action. In reality, they are surrendering their position to the very forces they believe they are resisting. The power of waiting, restraint as a weapon. Not all storms are meant to be fought. Some are meant to be outlasted. History remembers the bold strike and the triumphant charge, but it quietly forgets the countless victories won through the discipline of patience. The truth is that many of the greatest gains in power have been won not by those who moved first, but by those who refused to be provoked into premature action. Consider Napoleon at the Battle of Austerlitz in 1805. His enemies, a coalition of Russian and Austrian forces, sought to lure him into an attack on their seemingly weakened right flank. Any lesser commander, seeing the bait, might have rushed forward to claim the advantage. Napoleon saw the trap, and instead he feigned weakness of his own. He withdrew from key positions, inviting the enemy to overextend. When they bit, stretching their lines thin, Napoleon struck decisively, splitting their forces and turning their apparent advantage into a fatal liability. The brilliance of Austerlitz lay not only in the movement of troops, but in the stillness before it, the refusal to act until the enemy had revealed themselves fully. This same principle defined the rise of Tokugawa Ieyasu in Japan. For decades, he was a lesser warlord in the shadow of greater men. His rivals insulted him, questioned his courage, and tried to draw him into rash confrontations that would have destroyed him early. He did nothing. He smiled, bowed, and made peace where others sought war. To impatient eyes, this was weakness. But Ieyasu understood that time was an ally to the disciplined. When his enemies had exhausted themselves in conflicts against each other, he moved, not in anger, but with precision. By 1600, at the Battle of Sekigahara, he crushed the last of his rivals and became shogun, ruling a united Japan for over 2 centuries. His patience was not passivity, it was strategy sharpened over a lifetime. Philosophy. The ancient roots of calm. The ability to hold one's composure under pressure is not a modern discovery. It is one of the oldest and most universal tenets of human wisdom. The Stoics of ancient Rome taught that external events cannot harm us as deeply as our own responses to them. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome and commander of armies, wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." In his reign, Aurelius faced plagues, wars, and political conspiracies, yet his writings show a man constantly reminding himself to remain steady, to see the events of life as neither blessings nor curses, but as material for the exercise of virtue. In the East, the samurai practiced mushin, the no-mind state, not the absence of thought, but the absence of disturbance. A warrior who could keep a still mind could read the battlefield more clearly, anticipate threats without panic, and strike without hesitation when the moment was right. In Zen teachings, the mind that reacts wildly is like a churning river, muddy, opaque, unable to reflect anything clearly. The mind that is calm is like still water, transparent, revealing the truth of what lies beneath. Diplomatic history is equally rich with examples. Zhou Enlai, the first premier of the People's Republic of China, was famous for his composure in negotiations. Western diplomats often remarked on his ability to sit in silence for long stretches, offering no hint of irritation or eagerness. This was not mere courtesy, it was a form of pressure. In that silence, counterparts would often talk themselves into revealing information or concessions they had not intended to give. Zhao's mastery of self-control became a mastery over the tempo of every conversation. The science of self-mastery. Modern neuroscience explains in biological terms what the ancients understood intuitively. At the core of emotional reaction is the amygdala, a small almond-shaped cluster deep within the brain. Its purpose is survival. When it perceives a threat, it floods the body with stress hormones, priming us for fight or flight. This was an advantage when survival depended on split-second reactions to predators. But in the modern arena, where most threats are social, political, or psychological, this primitive reflex often works against us. When the amygdala overrides the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for reasoning, planning, and judgment, we experience what psychologist Daniel Goleman calls an amygdala hijack. In that moment, the emotional brain seizes control, and we act before we think. Words are spoken that cannot be taken back. Decisions are made that cannot be undone. For the strategist, this is the moment of greatest vulnerability, and the opponent who can provoke such a reaction holds the upper hand. The disciplined mind interrupts this process. By creating even a brief pause, a few seconds of silence, a deep breath, a shift in physical stance, the prefrontal cortex can reassert control, reframing the situation and restoring clarity. Military commanders train for this by simulating high-stress situations repeatedly so that composure becomes a conditioned response. Skilled negotiators do the same in the boardroom, refusing to commit to a course of action until they have assessed both the content and the emotional tone of the discussion. Control as a power dynamic. Those who maintain composure in moments of tension exert a quiet but overwhelming influence over those who do not. In a heated negotiation, the party that remains calm sets the pace, forcing the other to match their rhythm. In a public confrontation, the individual who responds without visible agitation appears stronger, regardless of the words exchanged. In war, politics, or business, the unshaken player becomes unpredictable, and unpredictability is a weapon. This is why interrogators are trained not to raise their voices, why expert poker players maintain the same expression whether they hold a winning or losing hand, and why skilled politicians deliver their most damaging attacks in the calmest tone. The calm mind is not a passive mind. It is a controlled force ready to strike at the chosen moment. The strategic discipline of emotional control. To control your inner storm is not merely an act of willpower in the heat of the moment. It is the product of preparation, conditioning, and deliberate practice. The untrained mind will always yield to its own instincts. The trained mind reshapes instinct into strategy. The first principle is anticipation. The most disciplined leaders study not just their enemies but themselves, mapping their emotional triggers in advance. Napoleon knew that his pride could be provoked, so he cultivated a habit of silent observation before responding to any insult. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily in his meditations, "Today I will meet people who are meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." By expecting provocation, he deprived it of its surprise. The second principle is controlled delay. In moments of confrontation, time is your ally. Kennedy's naval blockade in 1962 was not just a political move, it was a tactical pause. That pause cooled tempers, opened back channels, and forced the Soviets to reconsider without the humiliation of immediate surrender. Whether on the battlefield or in a business meeting, the decision to wait, to let the other side speak first, to allow silence to stretch, shifts the balance of power toward you. The third principle is physical command. The mind and body are not separate in moments of stress. Each shapes the other. A leader who sits back in his chair, slows his breathing, and lowers his voice sends signals, both to himself and to others, that he is in control. This is not cosmetic. In lowering the voice, one slows the heart. In slowing the breath, one slows the mind. Military trainers drill soldiers to control breathing under fire for this reason. A steady breath is a steady trigger finger. How opponents weaponize your emotions. Those who understand this law will often test others to see if they do not. The provocation is a deliberate tactic, a feint designed not to harm directly, but to force an uncalculated reaction. In politics, rival leaders often stage insults in public precisely to bait a hasty reply, knowing that visible agitation erodes credibility. In negotiations, one side may introduce a deliberately outrageous demand, not expecting it to be accepted, but to ignite frustration and push the other side into revealing concessions too quickly. In war, feigned retreats have lured countless generals into traps because they could not resist the emotional satisfaction of pursuing a fleeing enemy. The Mongols under Genghis Khan perfected this art. Facing superior numbers, they would pretend to panic and retreat, knowing that the rush of victory would overtake their enemy's judgment. Once the pursuing army was deep into the open steppe, Mongol cavalry, fresh, disciplined, and waiting, would encircle and destroy them. It was not brute force but emotional manipulation that won these battles. The same principle operates in every domain. If an opponent can make you act on impulse, they have already beaten you. The cost of failure, a cautionary tale. In 490 BC, the Persian general Datis commanded a massive force against the smaller Athenian army at Marathon. Confident in their numbers, the Persians grew impatient when the Athenians refused to engage immediately. Instead of waiting and forcing the Greeks into a weaker position, Datis ordered an advance in the heat of frustration. The Athenians, disciplined and tightly formed, struck with precision. The Persians, stretched and uncoordinated, were routed despite their overwhelming advantage. The lesson is as relevant in the corporate boardroom as it was on the plains of Marathon. Numbers, resources, and even skill mean little when the mind at the helm is ruled by impatience. Building the fortress within. To master this law is to construct an inner fortress, a place no insult, fear, or provocation can breach without your consent. This fortress is built through daily mental rehearsal of potential provocations and your chosen responses. Deliberate pauses before major decisions, no matter how urgent they appear. Physical discipline, breath, posture, and stillness as tools of state control. Strategic disengagement, choosing not to answer challenges that do not serve your greater aims. Over time, these habits shift control from the amygdala to the prefrontal cortex, from reflex to strategy. You stop being a passenger on the currents of emotion and become the helmsman, steering precisely where you choose to go. In the court of human interaction, the calm mind is judge, jury, and executioner. The storm will come, it always does, but the one who stands unmoved will decide where the winds will blow next. To master yourself is to make yourself unassailable, for no one can seize the mind that commands itself. The global philosophy of composure. The discipline of mastering one's emotions is not the product of a single civilization or era. It is a universal insight, rediscovered by every culture that has produced enduring power. From the ancient Mediterranean to the African Sahel, from the courts of the Chinese emperors to the councils of Islamic caliphates, leaders who understood this law carved their names into history. Those who ignored it faded into oblivion. In classical Greece, philosophers of the Cynic and Stoic schools taught that anger, fear, and desire were chains that bound the soul. To break these chains was to achieve ataraxia, a state of unshakable calm. The Stoics saw the world as a theater of events beyond our control. The only true stage we command is the mind. In China, the teachings of Sun Tzu framed emotional control as a core weapon of war. If your opponent is of choleric temper, seek to irritate him. Pretend to be weak that he may grow arrogant. The implication is clear. To lose control is to hand the enemy their greatest weapon. In the Confucian tradition, self-restraint was not merely a personal virtue, but the foundation of social order. The gentleman, or junzi, could not lead if he could not master his own impulses. In the Islamic Golden Age, scholars like Al-Farabi and Ibn Khaldun argued that leaders must possess hilm, a calm forbearance that allows them to mediate disputes and resist the seduction of quick vengeance. Hilm was the antidote to tribal vendettas and the force that allowed rulers to hold together diverse and often fractious realms. African oral traditions carry the same lesson. In the Malian Empire, the griots, keepers of history, told of kings who could listen to long disputes without interruption, making judgments only after every voice had been heard. In the deserts of the Sahel, Tuareg chiefs valued the leader who could endure insult without rising, knowing that the one who shouts first loses the authority of the room. The convergence of these traditions across continents and centuries tells us something important. Emotional mastery is not a cultural preference, but a law of human survival. Where power must be maintained, the mind must be fortified. In war, emotional mastery determines not only victory in battle, but survival in defeat. A general whose lines have been broken must resist the instinct to retreat in chaos. Instead, he rallies what forces remain and organizes an orderly withdrawal, preserving the seed of future victory. The difference between a routed army and a retreating one is often the calm of the commander. In politics, the leader who can absorb an attack without immediate counterattack gains room to maneuver. The French diplomat Talleyrand, serving through the French Revolution, Napoleon's empire, and the Bourbon Restoration, survived because he never allowed his enemies to see him ruffled. Above all, he said, not too much zeal. By holding back when others rushed forward, he preserved influence while others burned themselves out. In business, high-stakes negotiations reward those who speak last. The executive who can hear demands, absorb criticism, and ask for time appears not evasive but thoughtful. The dealmaker who does not rush to fill silence forces the other side to speak, and in speaking, they often reveal more than they should. The ability to wait is a form of pressure. While this book is not written as a checklist, there is value in distilling the discipline of emotional mastery into a practical, narrative-friendly form, a kind of commander's manual for the mind. 1. Reconcilance of the self. Before you can hold your ground in the heat of conflict, you must know where you are likely to falter. Spend time charting your own triggers. What insults make your blood rise? What situations tempt you to act too quickly? Write them down and study them as you would study the terrain before battle. 2. The tactical pause. When provoked, buy yourself time. This can be as simple as taking a breath, asking a clarifying question, or saying, "Let's revisit this after I've had time to think." In that pause, you deny your opponent the advantage of your reflex. 3. Control the body to command the mind. Stand or sit with deliberate stillness. Lower your voice. Breathe through the diaphragm. These are not gestures for others. They are switches that slow your heart rate and clear your mind. Soldiers, surgeons, and elite athletes all use them for the same reason: precision under pressure. 4. Counterintelligence. Spot the provocation. Train yourself to notice when someone is trying to provoke you. The moment you see the bait, label it silently. They want me to react. That awareness alone can break the chain between stimulus and action. 5. Strategic withdrawal. Some battles are lost before they begin. Walking away is not surrender. It is the choice to fight on a field of your own choosing. This is what Ieyasu did for decades, letting others exhaust themselves before making his move. Control of your inner storm is not a matter of temperament or personality. It is a cultivated discipline, a deliberate shaping of your instincts to serve your long-term aims. It is as much a weapon as a sword or a contract, and far more enduring. The storms will come. In council chambers thick with rivalry, in boardrooms charged with ambition, in private conversations where loyalties fracture. The winds will rise and the waves will threaten to swamp your judgment. But the one who stands unmoved, whose eyes are clear, whose voice is steady, whose decisions are deliberate, will outlast them all. And when the history of your battles is written, it will not say you triumphed because you were lucky or because you were ruthless. It will say you triumphed because you mastered the first and hardest enemy, yourself. All right, that wraps up Law 1. I really appreciate you sticking around with me. Now, don't stop here. Go check out Law 2 so we can keep this journey going together. And hey, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, give this a like, and share your thoughts with me in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, have an amazing day.